Hello and welcome to the Marketing Maven and More podcast, where we're going to dive into the nuts and bolts of marketing and just get real about the highs and lows of running a business. Okay, so I'm your host, Sharique Richardson, and I'm ready to spark conversations that matter to you. So we're not just going to talk about the fluff and all the other stuff. We're going to talk about what really matters: marketing, business, and life. And today I'm so happy to welcome Nisla Love, who is a tax strategist at Choose Love Solution. Nisla, I want to give you a chance. First of all, to make sure I said your name correctly.
It's Nisla. It's
Nisla,
okay. It's
sorry.
Nisla. It's Nisla.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to give you a chance just to introduce yourself and tell everyone about your business.
Thank you, Sharice, for having me on your amazing podcast. So, my name is Nisla Love. I am a tax strategist, but one of the things I love doing is helping people keep more money in their pocket. I know it sounds cliche, but if you really know about the tax code, or just doing taxes alone, you once you get to realize it that the tax code was actually created for small business.
Hmm.
You actually get more benefits if you really take advantage of it. And so everything that we do at our company is surrounds tax planning,
Yes.
because we believe it's not just a one-time event, it is ongoing, and making those right decisions can help you keep more money in your pocket, keep you compliant, keep the IRS and the state away from you so that way
Oh my God.
you can have a stress-free life and enjoy the things that you want.
Well, that's awesome. I know that's something that all business owners can benefit from. I mean, we just got past the tax deadlines.
Hmm.
But I know for you, that doesn't mean that everything is over.
No.
So that means that your work has pretty much continuing to go. But
Yeah.
today we're actually going to talk about something that every business, particularly those businesses who are looking to scale,
Mhm.
can deal with, and that is hiring, how to hire effectively. So we're going to pivot from like the taxes and talk about that. And I'm going to ask you, what are three things that you want business owners to really think about when they're looking to hire? And I know you and I had a previous conversation about this, but what are some of the things that you learned over the years when it comes to hiring for the purpose of growing your business?
Oh, that's a good question. So the top thing I want to always stress is knowing how to hire.
Hmm.
What qualities are you looking for, and then also what is the bandwidth of that. I would like to say the bandwidth of the ability of practice, or the ability of to see if it's a good fit. It could be from one day or a week, but
Hmm.
most importantly, you want to know the difference between a contractor and an employee, because that's going to be your saving grace when hiring, because it'll give you the opportunity of how to hire, because there's certain guidelines in each state and federal that you
Hmm.
have to abide by. So, but once you have the difference between a contractor and employee,
Hmm.
I would always say have a grace period for yourself and for your employees.
Awesome. I know that many of us start off with contractors and then we eventually get to the point where we begin to hire full-time employees.
Hmm.
And I know it's different, like you mentioned before, even when it comes to tax codes and how each person is classified. But
Right.
also, would you agree that even when you're looking at how, not how you treat them, but how you see them as, a contractor versus an employee, I think an employee will probably be more invested
Hmm.
into the business. Not saying that contractors are not, but they definitely stand to gain more from the business as an employee of the business versus someone who is contracting because they may be here this year, they may be gone by this time next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any things that you would say that should be
Yeah.
how you
I
look at?
would say I would say it really depends on the individual,
Mhm.
because um, you could do business to business, and that'd be a contract. And so you'd be like, okay, I love this brand. I want to be a part of this brand. I'm all in it. They have the same morals, the same beliefs, the same vision, and you're a contractor. And so if they have a good audience, you want to be a part of that. So you're like, okay, I'm not gonna mess up that contract.
Yes.
So that part, and then you have the employee part where you just find the best employee, where they like, I just want to learn. I want to just sit at your feet and learn.
Yeah.
Those are like a diamond in a dozen. But when you do have that and they want to learn the culture, and you could trust them. And that's the key thing, to trust, because I know that's a lot of thing where a lot of employers, myself, where if you hire an employee, like, are they going to be invested? I'm gonna
Mhm.
pour all this information in, and they're going to turn around and leave me, or whatever the case should be. But that's one of the things, when you're in business, and you sometimes you got to put yourself in their shoes. Like, okay,
Right.
am I hiring them enough to keep them? Are are they? Is their skill set enough for me to pay them what they're worth?
Right.
And then, so one of the things I remember one of my mentors said is, whenever you hire someone, they should always be producing money for you. So if they're not producing money for you, regardless of what position it is, then there's no value there on
Right.
both sides. And so you always got to look at that. And it sounds like, oh, okay, it's about money, but we all know that money works, money grows, money talks. And
Exactly.
then, so if you're not bringing in the money to maintain that employee or that contractor,
Hmm.
then they're out with a job.
Exactly. So they need to be invested. And I thought about something too when I was doing a speaking engagement, and one of the women who has like a $2 million business. And as she was coming out of that business, because it was basically running without her, they didn't really need her to be there from the day to day. And
That's awesome.
how she got there was, instead of everybody trying to be the master of everything, she went to each person, what is your superpower? What is your
Yeah.
superpower? And everybody is working in the capacity that they love. And of course, as a result, the business, of course, it grew from a six-figure business, multiple six-figure, to, at that time, she was like $2 million at that level. So it does help when everybody is also, which agree, doing the things they love to do. Yes, I
Mhm.
can do this over here, but hiring people according to what is your specialty? What is your main area of expertise? Something that you can do blindfolded. Because I think that a lot of times, especially with a small business, we try to look for people who can do several things, right?
Mhm.
Because it saves money. If you get this person who can do about three or four things, then I don't have to hire three or four people. But the level of quality may not be the
Yeah.
same.
That is so true. I mean, I had learned it the hard way, because, when you first start, you're like, oh my gosh, you could do what? You could do this, you could do this. Okay, you're on.
Right.
And then they get burned out and they get discouraged. You get discouraged. And then y'all be like looking at each other and say, why are you here? Why are you here? So, like you said, having that individual, their superpower would be so beneficial,
Mhm.
knowing, like, my assistant, she's all into the details. She loves charts. She loves creating spreadsheets. I love it. So I was like, okay, that is your field. You do that. Versus
Mhm.
where I have my other assistant, where they love marketing. That's all they do is the marketing. So
Mhm.
you want to find, regardless of if people are good at it, you want where they best at it.
Yes, yes. It makes a difference. And of course, like you said, that's going to come back to the business, and the business is going to
Yeah.
grow as a result. One thing else I want to talk about is some of the mistakes that business owners make. And I know you and I talked about how sometimes people can keep an employee too long if it's not working, because you're thinking about, oh gosh, if I have all this work to do, and if I let them go now, who's going to do it? But you're not realizing that that person is actually costing your brand. It's
Oh
costing
yeah.
you money from a different angle, because if your brand suffers, then yet that is going to affect your number, because your numbers, because of your reputation.
Yep.
And
You lose
people say, oh,
clients.
don't work with that.
Yeah.
So that whole hire slow but fire fast comes in. But what are some other things that you notice that business owners do that, especially when they're on that growth track, they're really looking to scale, they really are looking to get to that next point. They may have gotten close to their first million, looking to make the next $1 million. What is something that they need to stop doing?
Or they need to stop, Joan. That's good. Um, so what? And I like how you said higher fat. No, you said
Yeah, hire slow and fire
higher
fast.
slow fires. So I mean, that is great. So you look at that also too, as you grow. One of the things is, like, automatically say, okay, I'm growing. I need more people. Not
Yeah.
necessarily. I think that would be a good time to do the reflection and say, okay,
Mhm.
we are growing at this point. What's working? what
Yes.
what we need to do, like rinse and repeat,
Mhm.
and then look and fine tune areas where you need to check, because sometimes you may be grown but somebody's burned out. or
Yes.
somebody's taking someone's slack and you're not realizing it. You're just like, okay, we're going to keep going. And then when
Mhm.
you get to that 6 million, you be like, people like, okay, I'm done. You're like, what do you mean you're done? So
Right.
I would say as you grow, you always want to have that check-in. I always do like a quarterly review,
Mhm.
depending on what type of business you have, and really just checking the health of your business.
Yeah.
Check your numbers, make sure your numbers match. Revenue is great, but profit is better.
Yes.
So look at your overhead, see if you need to cut costs and make any necessary adjustment.
Mhm.
And this is a great opportunity to look at your staff. Are they producing? Is
Mhm.
everybody producing? Um, and then really reward those individuals because, you know, we as human beings, we always want to be appreciated. We might not say it, but we want to be appreciated, and our employees do. And then so building that loyalty with your not only clients but your employees is going to be great.
And it made me think about like I've been on several like retreats,
Hmm.
several like in, they call it team building exercises and things like that. But it really unlocks a lot of different things about employees. I've done
Right,
this with Pfizer, I've done it with Duke, and it really does pour out because number one, you walk away feeling valued, you feel heard because you had this opportunity to show maybe something that no one else knew you can do,
hmm,
right? Or some type of skill that may not be in your job description, but here you are, and you're able to contribute in this way, which can obviously affect the company's bottom line. And
right,
so, but also gives more of a team environment because a lot of times you walk away like, yeah, I didn't know that about you. Or I
right,
didn't know that maybe we had this or that in common. And so, outside of numbers, which of course is very important, but it's also good to have a team that can work together.
right.
Because I mean, I love it when I see mines on Slack and they're working together and they don't really need me,
Hmm.
as you don't want to be like
That's
the mother working, micromanaging and things like that. You want them to be resourceful and be able to work together
good. Right.
and really slowly but surely take yourself, out the business so you can focus on those things that are really important. That's going to drive business growth. And
That's key. That's key what you just said. You don't want to be in the business. You want to be outside the business and drive the business. Yeah, that's great.
And I know with a lot of times, like when I've had, of course, we've had the hiring nightmares and the hiring mistakes and things like that. And we talked about,
Challenges. I like to say challenges or learning curves.
yes, I like to say areas of opportunity when I'm looking at websites.
Yes, yes, opportunities. Yes, great
Tell someone, okay,
opportunities.
this is bad. I'll just say, okay,
Yeah,
we have a lot of areas of opportunity here,
yeah,
that we need to look at. But when I look at, as far as like we talked about the employees and just let them know your standards, because I had one employee, well, ex-employee now, tell me that my standards were too high. And for
mm,
me, it was like, okay, no, because when you came in, you had your KPIs, you had, a whole employee manual, you know exactly what to expect. So that should have told you already what our qualities are. And I wonder, do other businesses do that? Do you have a manual? Do you have KPIs broken down in those 90 days? Do you have, clear expectations for employees, especially
yeah,
when you're hiring someone
yeah,
professionally at, salary, benefits, and whatnot. So, but just having that, I'm sure a lot of the other businesses may do have that, but I mean, a small, when you're transitioning, not really transitioning, but if you're a small business that is on the rise, where you're growing and growing, and you're like, okay, now it's time for us to stop and really look at how can we streamline and simplify this.
right, right. That's good. So I would say it just varies. One of the things that has helped me, and then also seeing with my clients, is so yes, having those SOPs, having those KIs, really great foundation. But
Mhm.
people could say stuff on an interview. People could say stuff on
Yeah,
that first day. It's like to see how they work. And
yeah,
so if you have the bandwidth to actually like give them like a trial, like and I know 90 days might seem like because they're like, okay, I'm gonna do good this
oh yeah,
first.
get to that
But if you
strong.
give them, I mean, I know some people do a day, a
Hmm.
try run to see how they work under pressure, how they work with the group,
Yeah,
and then also give them a week. Because when we give the expectation, and then if they don't mean it because of whatever the case should be, still got to give them grace. But at the same time, you know, time. I'm not gonna say producing what you want needs to be there
right.
for both party. So what I like to do is like really get to know the person and really stress what my brand is,
Mm-hmm.
what we stand for, what the vision stand for. So that's what we do like the first day, like
Mm-hmm.
just really like, okay, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, get an idea of if this is something that you still want to be a part of, and
Right.
then get a feel for, who they are and how they be like, oh, that's really nice. I really enjoyed it. And so, I'm taking mental notes. Okay. And then the second day is like, okay, let's train them on what they said they can do. Right.
Right.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
give them some examples or little projects for them to do. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if they're not producing the way that the expectation that was met before hiring, and then that's the question that you need to like, okay, so what did you need to do? And because sometimes we give, and I look back, I gave a lot of grace, a
Awesome.
lot of grace,
Yeah.
and
Hopefully,
a
yeah.
lot. I mean, a lot of grace. And so it got to the point where I was like so upset with myself. Like, why did I let it go this long? And then you get so emotionally attached, and then you're like, wait a second, this is my business. That, like you said, so it's either you let them go, or you continue to bleed the
Yeah.
business and damage the brand, their environment, and all that stuff. And so one of the things that really help is I give everyone a week, and within that week,
Mm-hmm.
will they might not know it, and so hopefully they're not listening right now, but but give them a week, like tell them, what is the brand, tell them what our mission is. That's the first day. If they catch a hold of that, like, okay, we could
Yeah.
keep going. And then the second and 2-3 days is like, okay, give them a project, what to do. And then by Friday, you kind of evaluate, you kind of know like, hey, do we need to move forward?
I like that because what I've done is I've given them a sample, like for social media. Give me a sample post. Here is the client. Here's all the brand information. Here's the messaging that we want to put out there. Um, Give me a sample post. Give me a graphic. Give them all the specifications that I want, but I also want to see what they do with it. Are you just
Mm-hmm.
going to give me just what I asked you, or are you going to take it a step further? I give you a
Mm-hmm.
deadline. Are you able to produce quickly? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at all these different aspects
Yeah.
of it. If I give you like a landing page to do if you're with, I want to see what your process is. And I want to know where your methodology, how do you go about doing this? So that way I can kind of see when we have, obviously larger projects that I'm putting you on,
Right.
how are you going to work? How fast
Right.
can you work? And how can you quickly interpret the client's needs
Mm.
without me having to handhold you. And so those are the things that I do when I'm interviewing. But yeah, but they know like for 90 days that first, I mean, I'm always looking. But you know that you have these particular KPIs that I'm looking for.
Right.
So
Right. Okay.
that you can't coast. Because don't wait till 90 days are over to coast and then all of a sudden think, okay, we're cool. No, we do, like you said, we do weekly check-ins.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, because
It is so important.
Mhm,
We have our staff meeting on Mondays,
mhm.
and then we have it on Fridays.
Yeah,
And so the Friday is like, Monday is like, okay, what are we gonna do for the week? And then Friday is follow up.
yeah. Did we get it done?
Did we get it done, and why didn't it get it done? Like, how can we
Yeah.
do better? And one of the things I have done with my staff is, and it has also helped me to be accountable also too, is like end of the day reports.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah, so,
that
mm,
that is a game changer, and it's not
yeah.
so much like I'm following up on you. It's for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Did I say what I said I was going to tell them to do, or
Yeah,
did I do my part? And then so that way we can continue the conversation, because at the end of the day, we're providing a service for our clients,
right.
and so we want to provide the best service possible, and so everybody has an impact on that.
Exactly. Because that everyone has to keep in mind this is the end goal that we all have.
Yeah,
So that's
definitely,
important.
definitely.
So do you have any like one more practical tip that people can take away with them when they're thinking about looking
Mm,
at hiring? And I'm sure most have already had the hiring nightmares that we talked about, and they've also done some things right. But just something to kind of leave people with that says, okay, if there's nothing else that you do this.
that's a good one. Like, what do you do? Like, I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is to have those. I know it sounds like a lot, but to have those weekly check-ins, because it does matter.
Yes.
Even if you can't do it, you have the manager or a supervisor do it, because it's so vital.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things that we could be like, okay, they're so independent, they got the flow,
Hmm.
but things happen. Um, things happen, and so you need that accountability in reference to. So I would say, do make it clear
Hmm.
exactly what you want. One of the things I always encourage is ask questions.
Yes.
There is no silly questions or anything. If you feel like you're lost, you ask questions. I mean, it sounds simple, but that was one of my pet peeves. People don't do it.
Right, because I get it. Sometimes managers will say that and then get upset when they ask the question. But so sometimes people are hesitant. Like if I ask this question, does it seem as if I don't know what I'm doing? But the
Yeah,
opposite could be where if you don't ask and then you make a mistake, and then here you are, you had the opportunity to ask.
yeah,
So just making sure that they have that environment of, look, I would rather you ask me what you think is a stupid question than not ask and cause something
right.
to happen.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
so,
like having a software, like you have a new software,
mhm,
and yes, they are very talented in every area, but this is a new software, especially like
mhm,
if you have a CRM and they haven't used your CRM.
mhm,
And then so you need to they ask question. You like, okay, I did the training, but we all know things always change. They make update. We had that with our CRM. Everything was good to go, and then January came, and then the system updated. You're like, what? You didn't tell us that you was updating, and so we had to all figure it out
mhm.
all together. So asking question was vital. Like, did you get that? No, I didn't get that. Did you get the update? So it's very vital to ask question. Even if you feel like I can't, if your employees can't ask you a question, then that's something that you have to check with yourself, because you need to be open, because at the end of the day, this is your brand, your business.
Mhm.
And so you have to be open and responsible to them so they can come and ask you those questions.
Yes, because you have to be open to those questions. I mean, if they're asking something that you feel like, well, you should know the answer to that, that's not the right response,
Right.
because this, even though they have the skill that you hired them for, they still have to learn your culture. They have to
Yep.
learn
That is
clients.
so
They have
true.
to learn your methods. They have to learn you.
Yep, that's so
So
true.
there's so much there that you can do that can really hurt your business because you're not being receptive to someone who wants to know specifically how do you want things to be done, for not so much how do I do this, but how do you like this to be done? And
That's true.
yeah, that's a big thing. And I think all of these are going to help business owners be resilient, whether you are, just right there in that halfway mark, maybe looking at you've already got some successes, but now you're looking at your next phase of success and you're looking at your team and you're trying to think about, okay, what else do I need? Where am I lacking? What are the repetitive? I know AI is something I didn't want to touch on because now people are creating custom GPTs to do certain functions of their business. And I think I think it's brilliant in some ways. I am, still cautious, but I love to do that. I'm building one myself
Hmm.
for more so for lead generation on my website that I can also use for clients. But this is where we're going. Because
Yeah.
honestly, this is where corporations, this is what they were doing in the beginning. I mean, they've been using AI for decades before
Yep.
it became accessible to us. And a
Yeah.
lot of times it was all about those automated, repetitive tasks, the assembly lines, if you think about that.
Hmm.
Now we're at a point now as business owners where we can now create our own employee to do certain things and not have to deal with, okay, this person's tasked with this, they get sick or they leave. At least you know it's going to be done and you just need some oversight. Because I always say with AI, you need human oversight, never
Yeah.
just trust
Yeah.
it.
You do.
What do you feel about that as far as using AI as as I guess to fill in whatever gaps for employees so they can be more productive on other things and just send those repetitive tasks onto a custom GPT.
I like AI, but like what you said, Sharik, I believe that it has to be with caution, because there there are errors, there are mistakes,
Mhm.
um, and you could put all the information in, all the requirement in, and it will still get it wrong.
Yeah.
I had this, when AI was like really like a bust. And so being a tax specialist, I had clients like, oh, I found this out on AI,
Yeah.
ChatGPT, that I could do this and I could claim this. And I said, oh, okay, you want to do that? But so the one thing is like, you want to do that? You could do that, but it's not going to benefit you. So that's what I'm saying. You got to be careful
Mhm.
on, even though you asked the question, because I remember when it first came out, people were like asking question and it was just giving generic stuff.
Yeah.
But now it has really advanced, and you could just like talk like me, act like me, speak this and this.
Mhm.
But even with that, even if you ask a question,
Mhm.
even did to the detail, to the lint on the top of the eye or something,
Right.
if you're not well versed in it, it could still be wrong, because I have seen it.
Yes, absolutely. And
I have seen it. I tested with, just with taxes, and I go, this is not correct. Where
right.
you get this? So you have to be very cautious with that also too.
Mhm. And I think it's important when you're looking at that in terms of HR, because I know a lot of companies will use it for HR. And, I did an experiment as I speak on this, where human oversight versus AI looking at, or more so human resume reviews versus looking
Mm,
at letting AI do it.
right.
And how many babies are being thrown out in the bathwater because they didn't check every single box that you told
Uh,
AI. Whereas you and I can look at it and say, okay, that's a comparable skill. That's something they can still do and help benefit my business, or that skill is actually more advanced than what I was looking for. So
mm-hmm.
I want this person to come in and do some, even better things or bigger things for my company. But
Right.
it's still advanced, but it still has such a far way to go in
Yeah.
terms of being something that you can fully rely on. So I would always recommend, if you're going to use AI, if you're looking to use it as an employee or use it as a tool that can help
Mm-hmm.
you, I would say more as a tool to help your business by doing work that employees would typically do,
Mm-hmm.
is just make sure that someone is who knows, like you said, knows the function, can actually look at it and say whether or not this is correct or not.
Right.
But we've
Yeah.
always, we've preached this to the end of time. Don't just trust everything it gives you. Okay. Because I tell this even when I was talking content last week, and I was telling someone that it gave me something, and then I got an email with the exact same content. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank God I saw that because, yeah,
Wow. Wow.
because if it's giving it to you, it's telling you this to someone else. And I know moving forward, there's some privacy issues that still
Yeah.
has to be worked out because there's a security thing. So I would
Mm-hmm.
never say tell it all your company secrets. I would never say give it anything confidential because of the fact that you're putting this out there.
Yeah, keep
Right.
everything public. Like if you
Right.
have your LinkedIn, your Facebook, social media, all that stuff, and it has, like, hey, my name is Nisla, and this is my company. Of course, it's public because it's gonna
Right.
search and grab all that stuff. But you don't
Mhm.
want to say this is my social, this is my address,
Oh,
all that crazy stuff. You don't
right.
want to
Have
do
our
that.
secret sauce because someone else, all they have to do is put in a prompt and all of a sudden they have your secret sauce now.
Yeah, that's so
So
true.
yeah, so it's a great tool. I love it for those things. I use it for, my reporting, but I do check it and make sure, okay, these numbers make sense, things like that. But it's something that's going to be very interesting. And I think it's going to change the conversation around hiring. Okay, before I hire someone to do this, do I just need someone who is just familiar with the job and who can just oversee the AI?
Mm,
Or do I want someone to do this particular job? And I think that's going to be very important moving forward when we're looking at how to streamline duties within our businesses and seeing, what role does AI play and
mm.
whatnot. So that's just something I'm kind of just kind of watching and just kind of, see how we evolve, as business
Right.
with that. I know corporations are already using it. And there's more pluses and minuses there with them, but just seeing how we start to implement that into our businesses as the smaller businesses,
Yeah,
um, it's going to be very interesting in this
I
next.
agree. But it's still, I still believe people still need that human touch,
Yes.
regardless.
Oh, absolutely.
Using AI as a tool should be
Mhm.
just a tool,
Right.
not so much to replace anybody. But I would always think like to enhance their skills.
Yeah. That's the thing is that I would never say, "Hey, you're fired because AI is doing it," because honestly,
Because I'm
that
not going
our
to be there to
human
watch
minds, huh?
I said, I'm not going to watch AI.
Right, right. Like, I'm not going to fire you. That means I have to sit here and look at this thing. No.
Right?
If anything, I think it's important for businesses to have trainings in AI for employees.
Yes,
Look
that
at
is awesome. Yeah.
newbies, you know what I mean? Okay, well, if you're doing this, what is something repetitive that you feel can be systemized, or if I'm using even the right word, if so that can be automated, that's the word I'm looking for.
Hmm.
And that's something that an employee can be trained to do. So that way they're able to work at a larger capacity than just what they're doing, because a lot of this stuff takes time. And that's the biggest thing is saving time, increasing productivity
Hmm.
with that. And so I think that that's probably a good, healthy balance.
Finding training. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I did here with my staff members is that they want to be trained.
Yeah.
And then I share that with you. So we carve out every
Mhm.
week some type of training.
Yeah.
Either once a month I'll do the training or they'll do on hands-on training. So
Mhm.
that way they're growing, and so as they grow, the business grow too. And
Nice.
that gives them the flexibility of doing and learning more. So it's not just doing one thing and they're just like, oh, I'm bored. So you're expanding their knowledge and it also helping the business and helping them.
That's good. Well, thank you so much, Nisla. I appreciate you coming in. This is always a great conversation because it's so needed. And now, as we're evolving into even becoming more techie, even those who are not techie are now on AI and things like that. But even learning the people skills and how to manage people and how to hire people is so important for small business owners. So I definitely want to thank you for joining us today and for talking with us. Can you tell the audience where they can find you and anything that you have going on in your business that you want people to know about?
Yeah, great. So
Mhm.
you can find me at Choose Love Solutions. That is my website, my company. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook. And then also too, I have this program called Streamline CEO Experience. So it helps small business or small business owners who have just started or is starting, laying the foundation, helping them with the
Mhm.
tools necessary they can grow their business. And you have assistant by expert helping you, advising you on how to maneuver it also too. And then the bonus is not only that you're having that part helping laying the foundation, but we help and create a tax plan for you so that way you can grow your business and have that plan and build generation wealth.
I love it. That's something that we all need. So thank you so much to all of you for tuning into the Marketing Maven and More podcast. If you like what you heard, like and subscribe to our channel for more content. But I'm asking you also to comment. Give us some comments and let us know what you thought about what we talked about. If you've had any struggles with hiring employees, any solutions, something that you felt like we should have covered, just let us know and definitely look up Nisla. I'm going to have her links in the description so you can connect with her and you'll have mine there as well. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Thank you to Nisla for joining me today. And y'all have a great one.